Welcome to my journey home to the Latin Mass. Today we're here with Aaron, and I just want to turn it over to you, Aaron, and tell you about your journey home to the Latin Mass.
Okay. So my name's Aaron Klaus. I've been on this show once before. I started coming to the Latin Mass, I believe it was June 22nd, 2019. Somewhere in late June 2019, I actually came up here with my friend Ethan, who was in the studio audience. He met me up here. I drove up. He had introduced me to the Latin Mass, told me that there was one up here. It's about 40 minutes from where our house is. He's currently recording me right now. But yeah, and so that I've been coming ever since. I came, never went back to the Novus Ordo for Sunday Mass because I was just amazed by the reverence up here. It was incredible. It was on Feast of, it was Christ the King, because we did the procession around Corpus Christi, Corpus Christi, and we processed around, and Ryan was singing in the Scola, and it was incredible. So
So with Corpus Christi, like the procession, it's pretty much like a 3-hour mass. Did that length of time, did that bother you at all? Because I know that it would probably bother some people, at least for their first Latin Mass. Do you think that, like, what would you say to people that are like, 3 hours, that's a long time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it did not feel long at all to me. I was more lost in the moment just during the Mass, just between the chant, because, it was a high Mass, so if it would have been a low Mass, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much, but since it was a high Mass, while the priest is doing things up on the altar, the Scola is singing, and it was just being able to sit there and peace and quiet, but listening to the Gregorian chant in the background, that was incredible. And then just to look through the missal and just pay attention to what was happening on the altar, it felt like time was frozen. It didn't even really feel like long at all. And then we went around and processed around, and I was loving every minute of it. Yeah, long masses don't bother me at all. So.
You had, on your previous show, I believe, you had talked about how you are a convert from Protestantism. You had been a Catholic for, was it about a year before you first came to Latin Mass? When you first started coming, did the Latin, was it an obstacle to you, or did it just not bother you?
It didn't bother me at all. Actually, the parish that I was going to before, the priest there, he would use some Latin, like we would do the Agnus Dei, the Sanctus. Different parts of the Mass were in Latin, or we would do the Kyrie, in Greek. And so I was used to some of that already, but as far as like the epistle reading and the gospel reading in Latin, that took a little bit to just get used to, but being able to just follow through with the missal was really nice. Now, it was a little confusing because some parts were silent, and I didn't realize they were silent. So it took me a couple weeks to get adjusted to that. But it was really almost like mysterious, so to speak. Whenever I was there, it was really just, it drew me into Latin because you didn't exactly know what was going on, which makes sense because it is a mystery what's happening, the consecration, everything, and so it added that to that element of that.
Yeah, that's something that Chris out there had talked about, is that from people who come from a Pentecostal background, you were Brethren, which is not Pentecostal, correct? That's like Anabaptist.
Yes.
But he had mentioned it. Most Christians nowadays are either leaning to, or a lot of Protestant Christians are in that kind of charismatic Pentecostal type camp because they're looking for that experience. And Catholicism, traditional Latin Mass Catholicism, is like the authentic fruits of the Spirit, where you have this deep mystery that can't be fathomed. You have like speaking in tongues, this jubilant singing where you're just kind of going on and on praising God through the chants, and the beauty of the whole thing. And I think that that's something that appeals to, I think everybody is looking for this religious experience. And I think that, would you agree that that's something that appealed to you, was not only the mystery, but the music, the beauty of it, the reverence?
Yes, absolutely. The reverence, especially whenever I walked in, and even just seeing the high altar here at the church was just incredible, because the church that I was baptized in, it was a former Protestant church, and there was just a table kind of like this was the altar, and then the other parish I started going to was pretty much the same thing. And so just having a small table as an altar versus the high altar with all the, oh man, it was just incredible. See it, and the incense burning and everything was just really just struck me. And so, yeah, it was.
What is, I think this maybe had come up when you were on the show with Ethan before, is that you talked about the great community that usually exists at Latin Masses. Now, I know that you go to another Latin Mass regularly as well, and so you can kind of see these communities. Can you kind of like compare and talk about what is similar at various Latin Masses, the ones that you've been throughout the country? And how that you think makes them desirable to attend.
Yeah, so that's definitely one thing that I think the Latin Mass has an advantage over versus other Novus Ordo parishes where, half the people, not half, but a lot of people leave like right after communion. They don't even wait till the end of the Mass, or they just maybe talk for a couple minutes and leave. Whereas like here, we stay after, we socialize, have discussions, and even the other Latin Mass that I go to, unfortunately, since quarantine, since the whole, this COVID thing has happened, they haven't been allowed to have social gatherings. They used to have social gatherings in the basement underneath the church. There was a kitchen down there. They'd have meals and everything. So now we just kind of stand outside the church and maybe talk for 30 to 45 minutes. We've had some gatherings at people's houses, but we're hoping as soon as the lockdown measures and the COVID measures get lifted, then the community can really start to thrive again. Because that's a nice way to welcome in new people. Someone comes in, they're like, whoa, what did I just see?
Yeah.
And so then they can sit here and, talk with everyone and ask questions. And that was really something that drew me, probably had me coming back every week after this, because right after my first Mass, I was in the back just, I didn't even know how to process what happened. And the priest came back, because I was a new face, and he started talking to me, invited me over for a meal at the rectory with everyone. And that's where I met you, and I was just trying to meet everyone. And
that appeals to people because typically your Latin Mass is usually not in anybody's home parish. They're driving a half hour, an hour and a half to get there. And so when you get there, you're not just going to hear Mass and go home and watch the Steelers or whatever. You've driven over an hour, and so there's also people there who are kind of a weirdo like you as well. Somebody who's really into this. I mean, believe it or not, people believe Catholicism. Isn't it great? Yeah. So they're actually interested in the old traditional Latin Mass. So anyway, you have these like-minded people, and you get together and talk. And believe me, correct me, the viewers, if I'm wrong, but we don't just sit around there and talk about the liturgy or what crazy things the Pope is doing. I mean, we talk about other stuff food and jobs and real estate investing and girls and whatever stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just it's normal people, from all walks of life. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, it's definitely not your, sometimes we will have conversations about different things that the Pope says and different, council, like Vatican II and everything, those documents. But yeah, a lot of times, we're telling jokes, we're having a good time, just carrying around. Kids are running around playing and everything. So yeah, it's just
normal life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for that long of a drive, a lot of people also might think, well, that's too long of a drive. But would you what would you say to them? Would you recommend it?
Yeah. This parish is about an hour from my. 50 minutes if, depending on just traffic lights and stuff like that. I can be up here in a little less than an hour, but the other Latin Mass that I go to, it's about an hour and a half from here, and, I don't mind making the drive out. Nice drive, get out there and, have a good time. Going to Mass, it's incredible, and it's well worth every minute of the drive. You can listen to chant on the way out, pray the rosary, something, anything. So.
What would you say is the biggest difference that drew you to the Latin Mass? So you said you stopped going to the Novus Ordo as soon as you went to the Latin Mass. So what was the biggest aspect of that decision? Or was it just a bunch of all the things put together?
Yeah, it was definitely a combination of things. I would say overall the reverence, not only in the way the priest said Mass, but also how devout the people were at Mass. Now, you go to your typical Novus Ordo parish and you have kind of a mixed match of people. You have some people who are very pious, very devout, and then you kind of have those people who walk in late at the back, wearing their Steeler hoodie or something, going for communion, and it's kind of a mix and match of people. Whereas at the Latin Mass, everyone is very prayerful, very pious in regards to just during the Mass, and then the way the priest says Mass, it's very, very reverent. And so I would say, and even just the modesty of dress, going to a Novus Ordo parish and girls are in low cut tops and tight pants, and it's what is this? I'm supposed to be at Mass, and it's you come here, girls are dressed very modestly, wearing chapel veils. All the men are, if they're not in suits, they're at least dressed up. They're not wearing their Steeler hoodie or their, looks like they just got out of bed. So I would say the biggest thing was just the reverence, or just the piety of the people, the faithfulness of them. And so,
I know that there's some people who are local to this Mass and they've attended and they're like, oh, I can't go there, or those people are too holy, or you have to dress up and all this. What do you say to people that think that they're oh, that's not me, and oh, I can't, dress up, or that kind of thing, I just don't fit in? Do you think that the Latin Mass is exclusively for I don't know, hipsters or rich people or whatever? Or can Joe Blows, who work construction or work at a dairy farm, can those people fit in?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ryan, in regards to whenever I first started coming here, I hadn't been Catholic very long, and so I was definitely not the most even just knowledgeable about the faith. The most, I've certainly grown a lot in my faith since I've been coming here, and I never felt judged for not knowing anything, or whenever I first came, I was pretty much just khakis, a little polo kind of thing. I wanted to at least dress up, but I wasn't wearing a suit or anything. No one ever said anything oh, you have to be wearing this. I know my friend Ethan, the first time he came, he was in sandals or something, and shorts and sandals. So no one said anything, and I think it's just the atmosphere. You look around at all the men in the parish, and you see how they're acting, and you just want to kind of follow their example in regards to that. And so, and then just even talking with you, learning more about the faith, and I'm still learning a lot about the faith. And, I would say it was more of I was challenged not directly by anyone, but just by the example that everyone was living, to just be a better Catholic in general.
Yeah, so that's very important, because a lot of people are turned off by a direct challenge, but this is just kind of learning, or by osmosis, just being in that environment, you pick up on things.
Yeah, and people aren't going to judge you if you wear shorts. I mean, we've said that a lot of times, but it's, if it's a new person and they're wearing shorts, I'll talk to them just like if I talk to anyone else. You're not a weirdo.
Usually what happens is a person who's in shorts or whatever, or a girl that's wearing something a little bit risque, they usually notice it. They're oh, I feel out of place or whatever, and then you can just say, oh, well, next time, dress differently or whatever. Yeah. And there's no, as I think we said this before, there's no dress code police who are going to come and arrest you. Now, if you go to a lot of other parishes, you'll find a dress code police, and they're worried about, do you have on the mask? Have you said the virus? Can I see your membership card in the virus religion? Do you know? Can you recite by heart the virus creed before you enter in the door? But that's not a problem here.
You have anything else?
No, nothing else.
All right.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Aaron.
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.